Make that big boss less special. It ain't no game, but they saying welcome to the second level. Second level.
What's up, world, and welcome back to Codename Morpheus, episode 15. Yes, 15. I double-checked. And
I think you actually triple-checked.
I triple-checked. And my name is Tom. My co-host here today is going to be my buddy Keegan, as usual. And
I was going to say, if it wasn't me, I'd be like, what the hell happened?
It'd be weird.
It's because I yelled at you too much. I'm going to yell at you a lot this episode.
Yeah, I'm prepared. So, big week for VR in general. Big week for gaming in general, especially for a Sony fanboy. But
I feel like Microsoft didn't really do much this week.
But for Codename purposes, we do have a lot of awesome stuff to go by. If you haven't checked our indie show or indie podcast that we do, please do. It's a decent podcast in a very similar style to this, except it's all about indie games. But that's not what we're about today. We are here to, first of all, thank you so much for the support lately with this show. Last episode approaching 100 views at the time of recording, which is, for us, like, pretty good. You know, it's a good sizable amount of people tuning in, and that was organic. We didn't post that anywhere. So
I'm just going to stare at you.
Yeah, awkward bitch. And welcome back to this show. And today we're going to be discussing, obviously, amongst other things, the new releases, sales, etc., etc. Paris was this week. Big news everywhere. PGW, Paris Games Week, and Sony went pretty VR heavy between the pre-show and the media showcase. We're going to get into all that goodness. And of course, since then, some shockers have dropped. And we're going to get into those too. So I guess let's start with the new games as we normally do. So this week we have Stifled. Are you familiar?
I know neither of these games.
You know neither of these games. All right, so let me explain. So Stifled is that one game, and I think you'll remember it if I tell you about it. But Stifled is that one where you could only see when you make sound.
Oh, yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
So it's like
the echolocation bat one.
Correct. So you're like in a black world, and you could only see white lines, much like I imagine.
Is it stifled because your vision's stifled?
I guess. I don't know. I mean, your vision's fucked. It's not really stifled. I mean, you
you don't have vision.
Hear to see.
Because bats don't see. It's echolocation, so their eyes don't see things.
Yeah. I don't know.
Sound waves.
They have eyes, though, don't they? They do have eyes.
I think so, but I don't think they work.
They're going to be able to see something.
No.
A bat's blind. They do say blind as a bat.
There you go.
There you go. So
you answered your own question.
Anyway, Stifled came out, and that is the game, like I said, where basically it's a horror game. It is a horror game,
like every VR game that comes out.
But yeah, like most, but both of them this week because it's Halloween. We're recording on Halloween, so Stifled. You basically have to make noises in your environment to try and navigate around this dangerous place that you've ended yourself up in, and of course, the more noise that you make, the more likely you are to get eaten, killed, whatever it is that's after you. And you use things like rocks and stuff. You just throw them, and then like you'll like make ripple effects, and you can kind of get an idea for where everything is. Very smart mechanic, I would say. Would you play it or not?
No.
It's because it's horror?
Yeah.
Okay.
You know that.
Well, it doesn't look like a tradition. I haven't seen a monster in a trailer yet. It's all been just kind of like implied.
Yeah, but you saw how I did Until Dawn. Even when there weren't things around, I was scared.
That's true.
Because atmosphere. It's the anticipation. It's like getting on a roller coaster. I'm fine when I'm not fine when I get scared, but I'm fine when I'm on the roller coaster. It's the anticipation up to the roller coaster that gets me.
You mean like going up the clickety-clack
No,
thing,
it's
or
waiting
like
in line. The why am I doing this? The fear of like, oh my god, this is people screaming.
I thought you love roller coasters.
I do. I love them to death. I hate standing in line for them now. Isn't that
just because you're impatient?
No, that was because I get nervous, like I tense up from it. But we went to Florida like the March after 9/11, so 2002, and there was no line, so you get off one roller coaster on the other. And I realize why there's lines, to make sure you don't throw up, because that's a hell of an inertia thing going on in your body there. So,
at some point just go to like to ride. You mean
I can't. Neither could my family. Like,
no,
nobody,
I'm just saying, like you said, so you don't throw up. So the line is so that you have to wait a little bit before you can go on another one.
I mean, I'm sure that's not why, but I'm glad that there is lines now.
Yeah,
to a certain extent. But I hate them. Because they freak me out.
So $20, Stifled in the store, no sale, no PS Plus, doofers or nothing, just flat out $20 if you want it. Doofers. And it looks right. I mean, if you're a horror fan, definitely worth a look. It's an interesting mechanic. I've not played it yet. I'm thinking about picking it up for next week because I prefer it looks-wise over our next new game, which is by Pixel Junk. And Pixel Junk are sort of massively entwined with Sony at this point. They released a bunch of early games for the PS3 when it came out, and they became kind of known as this little company that would churn out just nice little gems of games, but they weren't necessarily like earth-shattering. So Pixel Junk VR department made a game called Dead Hungry, which we've discussed before, where you're essentially at like a food cart, I guess, and zombies are coming after you, and you have to throw food at them, and then they eat it, and then they feel better, which is weird. It's like you're not actually trying to kill them. You
never come across zombies, so I don't know how they actually react in real world.
Well, yeah, I mean, they want brains.
What if
I don't know if you're
what if
feeding
our
them brains?
whole like preconceived notion about zombies is wrong?
I mean, it could be.
It could be. What
do you think they want?
Maybe they're just hungry. Maybe they just want normal food, not brains. But they don't know how to fend for
Doesn't
themselves
help when they
they're
say brains, though.
But no,
'cause
but they're saying they don't have brains. Their brains, our brains are broken. Our brains are broken. That's where it's coming from.
I could see that.
That's my zombie
It would
theory.
be better if they just kind of came out and were just like cereal, just like
Cocoa Puffs.
Frosties. Yeah, I mean maybe, but in this game you like feed them hot dogs and stuff. You just kind of lob them at them, and apparently in some way or form it saves it. Good news about that and the word save is
they have
that
real bad like eating noises. Like,
I have no idea.
I hate games that have
don't
that.
like the look of it, to be honest. And there's no knock on Pixel Junk. It looks fine. It's just it's not a me
no,
game.
you're allowed to say. I say it all the time. You're allowed to say you do not like the way a thing looks. And
No, it does. It looks great. I just don't like wave shooters that much, unless there's something going on. Like
I hate horror games and space games.
This is a standstill wave shooter, so I'm not on a roller coaster like Until Dawn. I don't have many interesting things to do. It's like crossing Overcooked with a semi-boring.
I want you to make
shooter.
a wave shooter that you wave to shoot now. Like gotcha. You have the movie, you just go whoop, and it goes.
So this one, like I said, is on sale. It's a non-PS Plus sale. It's just a normal sale. I guess it's probably like a first week thing or whatever. So pick it up if you want it while it's hot at $15 instead of $20, which is the full price that you would normally.
That is 25% off.
That is 25% off for
Math.
a brand new game. It's a pretty good deal. And those are the only two new games that came out for the US store this week. There was one that I noticed, and this isn't a new game, but it's like a week or two old. And for whatever reason, I didn't check the Hong Kong store last week. This week I did. City Avenger showed up. Now, City Avenger is a VR game that is really like a bad-looking VR version of Grand Theft Auto.
Yeah, well, it's a mobile port.
Yeah, it's a mobile port. I mean, the graphics are for shit, but that is in the Hong Kong store. If you really want to try something different, if you are kind of interested in going for a game that has that vibe to it, and you don't mind shitty graphics and potentially shitty gameplay, then give it a shot. It's in the store, the PSVR store for Hong Kong, and there's some more going on there as well with Hong Kong, but we'll get into that in the news section. And the other sale, the only other sale, by the way, in the US store
You got the name wrong.
Did I spell it wrong? I did, didn't I?
Yeah,
whatever. Psychonauts in the Rhombus of Ruin came out, and that is 14 down from 20. That's a sale.
That game I have.
Yeah.
I played it, and if you like Psychonauts, it's really good. I enjoyed it. The only problem I really had with it is you're jumping around the room to teleport to solve mysteries and crimes, and that's cool for like. This is one of those games that I did in sections when I played it. So I played like 2 sections, and I'd hop out and then go do something else, and then I'd come back in and be like ready to go. But it was fun when I was in there. The only problem I ran into sometimes is some of the clues. Like when you're down to like one last thing you have to solve the puzzle for, you're like, okay, what am I missing? And you feel like there's no clues to be like, hey,
no
you
hints.
should look over there or
Right,
something like that. Like, I wish I had that, especially if you're sitting there for 5-10 minutes of like, what the fuck do I do?
It's also single player, so like for you, I don't imagine it's something that keeps your interest much.
I love Psychonauts though.
You do?
So the Psychonauts brand I'm into. But
Okay.
yeah, it was. I did it more for characters than anything else because the character design in Psychonauts world is awesome.
And it is a cool looking game, like
Yes.
in VR. Like
Yes, it was real weird. One of the things I liked about it is you can do stupid shit and they will react to it. So there's one in the very beginning. You're on. I'm guessing. I think it's a ship. Can't remember exactly what you're in, but you got to hear people's conversations and figure out how to get out and solve things, all this kind of stuff. But there's one part where one of the characters goes back into the bathroom and needs toilet paper. So what you could do though is like you see where the toilet paper is and you give it to him if you wanted to. But there's also other things you can open up and chuck at them. So you like chuck a magazine and all this, and they have quips for everything you throw at them that's not part of it. Or you could basically go around as different characters. You can get in different characters' minds. So when you're somebody else's character, he will have a different response to a different character when you do something with them.
So good dialogue trees.
Yeah, it's really well done there. Like I said, the gameplay itself was meh. But easily for 14, yes. For 20, I think this is one of the few games that's worth $20, or worth the full price for VR.
Cool.
When it comes to like that mid-tier range.
Nice call.
See, I like games, Tom. Those of you who are watching for the first time, I tend to be pessimistic on here, or realistic as I call it.
He twists the truth. But so there's a new game that came out it's not a new game. It's a pack, right?
A bundle.
But we noticed it and we thought we'd be remiss not to mention this. And this is technically in the news section because I've never seen anything like it, but it's also technically part of a new release, I guess, at the same time. But they're not new. So let me explain. Hong Kong store right now has a bundle coming out already. It's called Worldwide Studios Selected PSVR Titles Mega Pack. You know, real easy mouthful. And
I feel like that was just a Google translation somewhere.
This bundle has a bunch of games in it for a relatively alright cost.
Can we stop on the first one?
Sure.
I did not know that had a colon in its name and had a whole nother subtitle.
I don't think it does in the U.S.
Okay.
I think it's just a Hong Kong thing.
Bound is what I'm talking about.
Yeah. So the first game, and this is, I'll go through all the games in this this mega pack, and then you tell me if you think it's worth the money after, because we did the translation for you. So the first one is Bound. They call it Shattered Kingdom.
Good game. Had some camera issues, but I believe they fixed it with a patch.
Solid game.
That's
cool. Drive Club VR, which actually, weirdly enough, a lot of people are coming back to Drive Club VR after playing GT and enjoying it more because GT let them down.
Oh, see, I felt it was too arcadey for my liking. I want a super sim though.
I had a good time with it. I enjoyed it probably more than Dirt, just because the rally thing is really confusing for me. Farpoint, I mean, that's a full
best game here.
Price AAA game in there.
$50 game.
Here They Lie is in there as well, and Here They Lie, for those of you that don't know, is it's an early horror game that was diagonal based turning and teleportation. And PlayStation VR Worlds,
which needs to be in everybody's collection.
Solid title. Rigs, which, to be fair, has been free for a long time on most of these places.
Gorilla.
Yeah.
Cambridge does no longer exist.
It doesn't exist. And so you may already have that one, but it's in the bundle anyway, just in case.
Well, was it free worldwide or just US?
In a lot of places.
Okay.
Yeah, in a lot of places.
I
think it was free in Hong Kong. Star Strike Ultra VR, otherwise known as Stardust, I believe, over here.
I was like, Star Strike was one. I didn't recognize that name.
Star Blood Arena, which again, that was one that got a permadrive price drop recently to $20, but started out as a $40 game. Tumble VR, you're a big fan of this one. Yep, good puzzler.
It's not scary, and it does puzzles. Scary.
And the last one is scary, and that is Until Dawn Rush of Blood. So let me go through that list from top to bottom real quick. Bound, Drive Club, Farpoint, Here They Lie, PlayStation VR Worlds, Rigs, Star Strike Ultra VR, Star Blood Arena, Tumble VR, and Until Dawn, and you can get those all for 888 Hong Kong dollars, otherwise known as $113.81 in US.
With current exchange rates.
With current exchange rates.
And that is of Tuesday, the 31st of October, 2017.
I think because they're digital, it's worth it. Because if you wanted all those digital, because we were talking earlier about how with physical games they'll drop the price.
When we saw this, you're like, oh, this is a great deal. It's actually not that good, because if you look at I looked up some of the games and physically they're about half the cost they are, but digitally, for whatever fucking reason, they don't drop the prices of digital games. And they're like, oh, here's a sale. You get half off the full price of the game.
But you got Drive Club in there is $20. Farpoint is still $50.
It's even retail, it's $50.
VR Worlds is $20. Rigs, I think, is $20. Star Blood is $20.
It's $20 because it's digital only.
Until Dawn is $15 or $20. So I think it saves you a little bit there but the problem is that you're likely to already own at least some of these. So,
maybe you just picked up a headset and you're like, hey, I need to get the mega bundle pack.
Perfect. If you just picked up a headset, if you don't know how to create a Hong Kong account, you know what to do by now.
Or if you don't, check out the little boop above us.
The boop will tell you that we actually created a video teaching you how to make a Hong Kong account.
One of the things I do like about this, and this is kind of what I like about it, is the variety of games, because as you know, on here Until Dawn, Here They Lie, I immediately I'm not going to play those because they're scary. But they have a racing game. They have Bound, which I think is one of the prettiest games that has been made in a while. You got PlayStation VR, the fact that VR Worlds is in there gives
That's
you
like 5 games.
yeah, five littler games, but they're a lot of fun. I played the crap out of VR Worlds when it came out. Like that was the one at launch that I remember going back to constantly.
Yeah, it's great for early
and then Tumble,
users for sure.
We got the puzzle game,
and it's in English. It's going to be in English because it's available in English and Chinese, as are most things in the Hong Kong store. So if you're interested in that and you have $113.81, then you can pick up all those games for that price from the Hong Kong store, should you wish. So let's get into nuts and bolts because. There's lots of nuts and bolts to get into. So the first thing I want to get into, and I'm going to have to change to a different note for this because I have an entirely different area, is, of course, Paris Games Week. Paris Games Week for us at time of recording was yesterday. You were working. I was home working on the show stuff, so I basically sat and watched the whole thing, writing notes along the way, downloading trailers, uploading trailers, just like I was...
And it kept going even when it was over.
Yeah, and they kept coming up.
That's usually what happens, though, with like... Because the showcase... I've said this before about E3. My favorite things are usually after the showcase because the showcase shows you what you pretty much know for a lot. I mean, there's surprises here and there, but like the ones after was always the ones of like what's coming out of the woodworks.
Well, they showed like they had like a Sizzle trailer for
the VR Sizzle Reel.
PSVR, and you know a lot of the games in the Sizzle trailer have like 8 seconds of airtime, and then like Eden Tomorrow was a game that was like really kind of everyone was like, whoa, I don't remember anyone ever talking about this game. There's only 8 seconds of it shown, and then they released the real trailer for it, which we put up and shared to Reddit because Reddit was looking for it, and and then people are super divisive on like whether they really wanted to see the full length trailer or not after watching that one. But anyway, so Paris Games Week happened, and it was VR heavy. I don't think anyone can deny that. I know you still kind of feel like they're, maybe not pushing that hard still, but I personally think that during this plus on-stage show, because you have to remember, with the on-stage show, they could only really show like 1 or 2 mega VR games, and they opted for the onstage portion of it to do a sizzle reel and then like a really solid, impressive new IP. And then for the pre-show, that was where they left the bulk of their updates to the games they'd announced at E3, and also some new ones too, or at least confirmed some that we kind of expected were on their way. So let's start with the pre-show. So did you see the trailer for Megalith?
No, but I can watch it right now as we're going.
You do it. I think I'm good on mute. I don't know. So Megalith was an interesting trailer. It wasn't really there was no gameplay in the trailer, but it was essentially they made it out to be some kind of an arena battle thing where you are 2 kind of gigantic monster things that have to fight. And the majority of the trailer was just like showing this big old monster in a cave and kind of how angry he is. He jumps out of the cave and he's like ready to kick some ass. And then right at the very tail end of the trailer, they show you looking down at your hands that are like monster hands. So they are like big and hairy and dagger nails or whatever. So not the most necessarily
become a god.
Yeah, I mean, you can, allegedly. Not necessarily the most information-riddled trailer, but interesting nonetheless. We've already reached out to Megalith, and they're putting us on their pre-list for checking this game out. I had a lot of questions concerning Megalith. I think, first of all, I want to know, is it PvP? Since it is based on like an arena fight, essentially. Is it you versus other like computer generated AI? There's lots to learn here. I think the trailer does not lend a lot of information, but it was interesting to see. Second one was one that I thought you would really enjoy, which was called Bow to Blood. Did you check this one?
I haven't really got to watch man. I was looking at all the indie stuff, getting ready for today.
That's okay. You can watch them while we're talking. So they'll be up behind, so as he's watching it, you'll be watching it too.
What you guys don't know is there's actually a green screen behind us. I can't see what's behind us.
Yes.
It's not a real studio.
Plus, it'd be weird if you were just like turned around the whole time. But Bow to Blood was basically this is why I think you'll like it. It is essentially a weird future VR TV show thing where you control a ship.
Can we talk about the art style immediately?
You like it?
Love it.
Okay. So it's
not scary.
It's a VR art style. It's not scary, and it looks an awful lot like Star Trek Bridge Crew. You are the helmsman of the ship, the captain, controlling all things like defenses and guns and where you want to put who where. But you're having to basically contend in this kind of TV show where you're fighting off the random bits and pieces that are around you, but you can also take down like rival ships, or you could be friends of rival ships. It looks interesting. It looks really, really interesting. But essentially, you're just commander of this ship. So I think if you were into Star Trek Bridge Crew, then this is definitely one to keep an eye out for.
As soon as it looks like it's single player.
I don't know yet.
To me, would be the only knock on it, but that's just a personal thing. That's not.
I don't imagine it is, honestly. I think there's probably some online elements to it. But the other bit of news that we learned about that game is that it is procedurally generated, which means that every single time is different, which I think is really important for any game, but especially for a game like this, because you don't want to get bored of hitting the same old techniques over and over again. And I'm pretty certain that as far as Star Trek is concerned, it's the same missions over and over again. So, Bow to Blood looked really, really cool. Ultra Wings VR.
I do know that one.
Everyone was waiting for that.
That's an Oculus and a Vive one.
Yeah, really, really popular. Basically, Pilot Wings VR. But yeah, you are in a plane. You're controlling the plane. You can do lots of cool things, including like barrel rolls and shooting things and just tricks and all kinds of stuff. So, Ultra Wings VR looks super interesting.
I wish the graphics were a little bit better. That's my only complaint with it. It looks pretty
they
blocky.
Look crisp though. Right. It's just that they're not. It's almost like that Windland style.
Yeah, it's a style more than anything else. But
it's a basic style.
I just wish it was a little bit better.
Yeah, it's a basic style. But
I want like a true flight sim.
For sure. But you do have to like land and stuff. So
yeah, I'm not saying. Yeah, that's. I mean, the fact that the color or the way it looks is like my only complaint. It doesn't look bad. It just is not what. When I'm thinking of flying in an airplane, it's not what I would have thought of when it comes to the art style. Well, but I do think it's going to be a fun game.
Some of the extra, more interesting pieces of information on Ultra Wings VR is that it is move controlled, which again for a flight sim is kind of weird because most of the time, unless you're doing
they need to make pedals.
You can use you can get like an air flight sticks thing. I don't know if you can do it for Ultra.
They should get pedals though, so your ailerons aileron.
I don't know
what aileron
that means, but
that's the tail. I think aileron is tail.
I mean, you could just say tail.
No, because the tail is the tail. The aileron is the piece that moves on the tail. So you can steer.
Okay, gotcha.
Science and
as far
engineering.
As my plain engineering knowledge goes. And it is, and this is true, at least 30 hours of game. So 30 hours, that's a big chunk of change.
How much of that is just flying around? That's the question.
I mean, this is 30 hours of basically trying to get to complete all the content.
Yeah.
So I think that's good. I think that's a big amount of time to put into a game. I think they've been polishing it for a long time, and I think it's really good to finally see some more gameplay footage that is a bit more interesting. Because before the Paris Games Week, the only stuff we'd really seen was like a very brief, like 30-second demo or whatever. But this one shows off a lot more in terms of like other things you'll be doing, like shooting and things like that. Mm-hmm. Really cool. Next game up is one that had me super pumped because you know me, I got my legs, and my legs will let me do things that necessarily not every VR gamer can do, and an ice skating death race sounds like a lot of fun to me.
I just watched the trailer as we were talking there, and it looks really, really good. I'm excited about it. My concern is motion sickness, but it looks like a full game. It looks like an experience I want to do. It looks like if it's online multiplayer, for those of us that have friends with headsets, like it's even better in that experience. If it's only single player, I would give it a little bit of a knock because that seems like a perfect game to just talk shit with your friends while you're racing.
I think you're right. I think it's I think they definitely need a multiplayer component in there. As to whether they have one yet, we're not sure. We're still waiting on like a press kit for that. But it looks amazing. It basically just looks like a weird ice skating version of Wipeout, where you're just on futuristic tracks, up ramps.
It reminds me of Jet Set Radio a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit. But the skating thing is cool, and I think the developers, once asked about it, were told that the way they have implemented the full locomotion, which is what they're calling it, is good. Like it's not. Like they've managed to kind of get a nice balance where, despite the fact you're going really fast and jumping and things like that, that it doesn't necessarily make you want to vomit.
You know what I really want that to do is I want to be able, because when I played Farpoint, I marched. I want the same thing where like I'll be skating,
be cool,
and then if you jump, if I swing my arms up, like if it's moving, I'm probably DS4 controlled now that I think about it. But if I jump, if I swing my arm, because if you just go whoo, and that's a jump, like that would be perfect because your body thinks you're jumping.
Yeah,
you could physically jump if you wanted to, but that could be dangerous in VR. If you
don't know what's around you. Players, because they're just going to be like.
Yeah. Well, the other thing I'm thinking is if you have an animal.
Yeah.
You don't land on an animal.
You got a little kitty or something here, it's like Sorry, Whiskers. So Sprint Vector was like one of my favorite looking games of the thing. And then, of course, Moss showed its furry little face again. So they showed basically just more of Moss, and they explained the mechanics a lot better, which I was a fan of. So what they kind of explained was that Moss is largely controlled with a DualShock controller, but you control both the mouse and other things. So with the motion controls...
Have you watched gameplay of it yet?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So with the motion... This is where it came from. I think maybe we got it. I don't know.
Well, a few when it was announced at E3, I watched Kind of Funny play it. They
have a demo build.
They had hands-on, hands-on.
But the demo build is apparently really, really fun. But yeah, so you're controlling Moss like a 3D platformer, same as kind of Theseus. But then you can control the environment with the motion controllers. So if you want to you can put in and hook onto like a stairway or whatever and like spin it so that Moss can climb the stairway and that kind of stuff. So it's kind of like, it's interesting because even with combat and stuff, like you can help combat. So you have to fight normally, but you can also help with like the motion stuff. So it's a lot. But everyone that played it, all the devs and everyone that played it said it looks beautiful.
Only issue I have is they showed this scene with the snake, and I know I won't be able to play it. Like, that's the part that just sucks me.
What if I get you past that scene and then let you play after that?
I mean, at that point they've set it up so that there might be more of it.
Might be another snake.
That's the other thing. Like,
I can play the whole game.
That's
and
the thing.
Tell you how many snakes there are.
Because that game when they immediately announced it, that's a puzzle platforming game. But as soon as the snake showed up, I was like, I can't do this, and it sucks.
It sucks, man. It's like you have allergies to certain parts of video games.
It's a phobia. I have a phobia of fear and a phobia of snakes.
You're afraid of fear?
Afraid of fear.
It's great.
Afraid of being scared.
Star Child, we got an update too. It was weird. It was a weird announcement. Don't get me wrong, Star Child still looks really cool, but they said, like, the developers came on stage before on the video, I guess, before they showed the trailer, and they were basically like, in this video there is a new power and you should check it out. And then they showed the trailer, and even everyone that watched the trailer was like, what's the power? Like, I don't know what it is. There's no good explanation. It's not like you just see Mario throw in his eyeball hat and you're like, oh, that's the thing. Like, it was kind of confusing. So the best we could kind of get out of it from just kind of watching it was that it looked like some form of like astral projection where you're basically outside of your body and doing some stuff kind of that way. Still interesting. They showed the updated Resi 7 DLC trailer coming 12/12 for the Not a Hero DLC and End of Zoe DLC 2, and then of course the Gold Edition with everything on there. It keeps looking better and better every time I see it.
Gold.
It looks so good, though. Like, I mean, the fact that it's all in VR and the fact that you are like kind of a killing machine.
I was talking to somebody the other day about this because they're like, I played Resident Evil. I can't remember who it was, but it's like, I played Resident Evil. I was like, Tom played it all in VR, and like he swears by it in VR. I go, I've not experienced it and never will because it's scary. But it was funny because he was debating whether he wanted to get a headset because he's like, I love that game. I love that kind of stuff, and I was like, yeah. I understand why people love it and why it's so cool, and I think it is the definitive as of right now. But I can't speak for it because I've not played it. But it is the definitive game.
It's definitely the most loved game in PSVR right now. In fact, r/PSVR, shout out to those guys, recently did a poll on like which are your favorite games of 2017, and Resident Evil smashed it. Like, Resident Evil and Farpoint basically. It was like Resident Evil, Farpoint, everything else. So as to be expected. It is a wonderful experience in VR. If you haven't done it yet, if you're on the fence, if you're like, man, it just looks too scary, it is. It is scary. That's okay, though. Like, if you can... I will say this. It gets less scary the more you play it. The beginning of the game is always tense because, like, the Mia fight and things like that, like, they're designed to really fuck with you because that's the first time you're coming across that type of scenario in VR of, like, having a full-length character, like, attack you with a knife or whatever. But once you get a little bit further into the game, you start getting some more guns, like shotguns and things like that. You kind of get less scared as you go on. There's still jump scares and stuff, but I would say after like the second or third boss, there's a point where you're just kind of like, oh, this is just Resident Evil. But yeah, once you get over the initial hump, it is well worth the payoff. I mean, the ending was okay, but it was really, really amazing experience. Moving on, I already have these two in here from the new releases this morning, with Dead Hungry and Stifled were mentioned, and they were for Halloween release, which would have been last Tuesday. And then League of War VR Arena looked interesting. Did you get a chance to see that one?
Yes, this is the one, like, I don't play too many. I'm gonna call it RTS because I think that's essentially what it is.
It's a bit of an RTS tower defense mixture.
Yeah,
yeah.
It was one of those games like, ooh, this looks interesting. Do you know what price is on this? Because that'll determine a lot of it.
I don't think they've announced it yet.
Because when I looked at it, I was like, this is a lot of fun. It looks like it's co-op and or
couch co-op
with
non-VR.
Do you know if you can online?
I don't know yet.
That would be cool. Because
I think they built it for that, but
so
I don't know.
If
League
you
of War is
can,
an online game.
If you can couch co-op, if you can online co-op, and you can single player, I'm in this game. Like, it looks cool. And with the trailer, it looked like you had a couple different weapons you could choose. The concern with something like this is because your God mode looking down on essentially what looks like a table, how varied would the games be?
Well, I imagine
do they have different environments you can go to? Like, does the table like at some point expand? Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, if you're playing,
there's a lot they can do with it. And it's a great question. I think that
if
as
it's
long
$20
as they are
based on trailer,
introducing decent like variety to it, you're right. I think it'll take off. It needs to be Command and Conquer VR, basically, or at least something similar to that. They can't make it too basic, I think, otherwise people will back off of it. There needs to be a level of like interaction because this
and a reason to come back.
Because this could be a game that's like a StarCraft or whatever, where like eventually this becomes a MOBA just because people love playing it so much, and it would be so much more intense when you're doing it in VR.
If this is $20-$30, I'm based on the trailer, I'm in. If it's above that, I think then they're pricing themselves too high, unless they have everything I just said in it.
Good news for you is that we're getting an early review copy. I've got that hooked up after, so yay. And then
comes out next week?
Last one was Monsters of the Deep in the pre-show, which is again
this one I just want this shit to come out. Like,
I just want to see it. Yeah, I'm kind of like I'm
at the point where like there's Final Fantasy 15 DLC. Cool. It's not what you showed us. Here's monsters.
Completely different to how the original vision. We still want a good fishing game though, and it is in the Final Fantasy universe. So I'm gonna be like, I'm probably not gonna buy it day one. I'll be honest with you. Everyone that's played it says it's great, but I'm gonna wait for a sale out of principle at this point. I think.
I just don't think it's what they promised us in the show. That's my thing.
So.
It's kind of like Project Cars 2. Don't fucking buy Project Cars 2 because they didn't promise. They didn't.
I think it'll be overhyped a little bit too in terms of pricing. I'm a little worried about the pricing on it.
Overhype on a VR game? No. Overhype on any game in general? No.
But yeah, November 17th is when you can expect to see Monsters of the Deep, which is of course tied into Final Fantasy, and then a little bit after that, Episode Ignis as well, which is not VR, by the way. Some people they had pointed out that IGN fucked up Ure.
Yeah.
But no, some people had said that there was like a watermark on some elements of Episode Ignis, but we know it's not VR, so I think it was just a mistake on Sony's behalf.
They just didn't take the overlay off in time. Is what it is.
Yeah. And then we moved from the pre-show, which was like, I mean, to be fair, the pre-show was just like boom, 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 VR, 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 and it was really exciting. And then they kind of took like a sort of a seat back for the main stage. So they did what they call in the business a Sizzle Reel, where they basically just showed like a bunch of games cut together, that some of which we knew were coming, some of which we didn't know were coming.
Can we talk about? I was gonna say there's two on here that I'm like, fuck yes.
Okay. I'll go through the list and then you tell me what you're interested in. So Ace Combat 7 got a look in. Apex Construct got a look in. I didn't put it on my thing here, but Rec Room got a look in. Smash Hit Plunder got a look in.
The next four then.
Transference got a look in. And Eden Tomorrow got a look in.
So of those games you listed, Ace Combat, the only problem I have is I think it's not all VR. It's only certain things.
As of the last that we heard. Yeah.
So that's the only concern I have there, but I would love to have that because that'd be a lot of fun. Because it's shooting game, but not in space. And depending on what type of planes they use in it, if they're old school planes, I would be all for it. Because you know how much I love World War II, World War I era stuff.
Spitfire?
Yeah, I would love that.
Bob London?
Yes. Well,
you Nazi bastard.
No. You bombed them back.
Well, they're Nazis.
Mom, they started it. The other one is Eden Tomorrow. That's the other big one. Like that one I won't say I'm hyped for. I'm just intrigued. Don't know what it is. Confused by it.
The interesting part about that was that a lot of people really loved that 8 seconds, but then, like we said, when we posted the full trailer up, they were like divided. Like a lot of people were like, "This looks so hype," and then other people were just like, "That is the stupidest fucking thing I've ever seen in my life." Like you told us nothing in that trailer. So it's still hit or miss.
It got me interested though. Yeah. So depending on how far that game is out,
it's on the radar.
It's got me like, okay. Versus like, let's be honest, 99% of the time when you list fucking games that are in development, I'm like, I'm never gonna play that one because I don't care. Like that got me, and then Rec Room is the other one. Like I'm super. I know you played it. I haven't had an opportunity yet.
Spotlight this week.
But like Rec Room is like.
You'll love Rec Room.
I know I will.
And I'll go.
Like I know for a fact I will.
Did you watch the footage?
I did, and I was jealous. I heard you had some issues though finding some people just because we had the beta.
Yeah, it was a beta, and it was like fucking 6 o'clock in the morning when I was recording, so there just wasn't a whole lot of people around except for this sweet old Mexican lady, which I'll get into. The one that I'm really actually more excited for is Transference, because Ubi seems to have been backing off of VR a little bit lately, and I think it is primarily because everything... Again,
how many teams they have working on VR, that's the thing.
True, but also they focus heavily on the multiplayer, and this is a debate that we're going to get into later.
Love it.
But yeah, so...
Thank you, Ubisoft, for giving me a game.
They've put out Werewolves, they put out Eagle Flight, they put out... what else they put out? Star Trek, and so they've done good work. Like Ubi has been like tripling it up.
Do you think they took Eagle Flight and that's what they made for Far Cry 5's Eagle?
Maybe.
Like, like, hey, we've got this technology, or maybe it's the other way around where they had the technology and they're like, that'd make a good VR game.
Yeah. I mean, it could have come from that.
Because they had it in Assassin's Creed, I think, too.
Assassin's Creed, the Eagle was in Far Cry Primal that you could be the. Yeah. It was an owl, I think, but
same. It's a bird flying. I mean, you just changed the skin.
Yeah, it is weird that they just suddenly got obsessed with being birds.
Yeah,
because
I'm like a bird, won't fly away.
but anyway, Transference actually is the one I'm looking forward to on that list, and that is Ubi. Just
what was Smash Hit Plunder? I don't know that one.
We'll go into that actually. Okay. I have a little section about Smash Hit because it is a previously existing game, and we have more information on it, so I'll get into that later. But Transference has looked really good since they announced it at E3, and then they just chucked it back in. They're like, hey, remember this? And I was like, oh yeah, I do remember that.
Can we talk about the big one?
Let's talk about the big one.
Everybody hyped, and I'm gonna say some good things and some bad things, because we've talked about this beforehand. As I always do, I talk about bad things. But Blood and Truth.
Mm-hmm.
First of all,
weird name.
When I saw the London Studios logo come up on, because I didn't watch it live, I watched after the fact. When I saw the London Studios logo come up, a studio's doing something right when you're excited when you see a logo.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, fuck, they did London Heist. Like, that's awesome. So basically, what this looks like, Blood and Truth, looks like London Heist, but fully fledged out into a game.
It's what everyone wanted.
It's not London Heist, though.
It's also, as far as I understand, not free movement. As from what I've heard so far, it doesn't. I don't know whether it's teleportation, whether it's like kind of on rails or what it is. But
London Heist didn't have any movement.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, London Heist was very smart with it. But since you're going to be actually like physically running around places and stuff here, they don't make it look like it's an on rails thing at all. The trailer made it look like you could full on do whatever you wanted to. So I'm not sure yet exactly what that looks like, but. Yeah, it's London Heist full length game, just a different
The only
story.
complaint I had the big complaint I had with London Heist was aiming was a bit rough.
Yeah.
In that because for whatever reason aiming down the sights of that pistol
it was a little off.
So I'm hoping they fix that.
I think like we said that the aiming was better on the car level than it was in the level in the library or whatever you're in. Because I think because you were ducking and dodging behind the table and you had like fire through like a 2mm gap at somebody. So I think there was a lot of kind of that was a bad place maybe to put a table in a shooting game.
And people get stuck inside of a table.
Yeah, there was all kinds of bugs and stuff going on with it. But I think traditionally they have it down, but what I love about this more than anything is that London Studios puts attention to detail. They are the guys that did the smoking cigarette. They did be able to fuck around with everything on the table. They did the slurping the drink, the opening the door and throwing your drink out the door or whatever.
I really
love that stuff.
Really like when I think of PlayStation Worlds, I guarantee that Ocean Descent is probably the most played one because I think it's the one that shows up right in front of you, and it's the best one to get into for
easiest one to explain what VR is.
But I bet you if you ask anybody who has played PlayStation Worlds, that probably London Heist is their favorite far and away. In that, I think all the experiences in that range from good to great. I think
Danger Ball was dope. I love Danger Ball.
Luge was pretty good too. Other than it was weird when your head's coming out of your neck, like your body's that way.
Super flying carpet, headless flying carpet.
Yeah, but but London Heist, I played that 5, 6, 7 times and enjoyed the crap out of it. I was I think, and you know what's gonna happen, but you also try to play differently each time.
But I think with London Heist, what was interesting was that with the Shark game, like you said, that was the best VR experience, the introduction to a VR experience. London Heist was the best introduction to what a VR game could be. It wasn't a fully fledged game, but the experience alone was like the first time you're sat in that chair being yelled at by the big bald dude, and then you kind of like end up in the bar, and you're like fucking around in the bar, and then you're suddenly shooting, and then you're in the car. Like, all of that laid out was so clever and so tight. The experience was incredible, and it was super immersive. So if they can pull that off, if they can pull off the immersion to the same extent that they did with London Heist, it's going to be stellar.
London Heist, I said it way back in the day, back when this was not Codename. It was just what we call Level 2 VR. Yeah. London Heist was the game that surprised me. Like, I had no expectations going in with it. Didn't really think I'd like it, just because of what it was. Completely blew my mind away, and I was like, okay, cool. Because I feel like I haven't had a game recently, other than, like, Farpoint looked good. I haven't had a game yet, or recently in VR, that has been that initial experience of, like, holy crap, this is cool. I love this. Could not do this in VR. Versus London Heist, like, I get lost in 3 games. I get lost in London Heist. I get lost in Star Trek Bridge Crew, and I get lost in Werewolves. Those are the 3 games I get lost in. Werewolves, not as much. Sometimes if somebody makes a fart joke or something, but, you know. But Star Trek, I get lost in.
I couldn't get lost in a game where I'm playing with other people, which is weird. Because, I mean, I guess with Bridge Crew, that's
Bridge Crew, because you're just doing command. Well, so
as long as people are, like, acting the part.
Well, the funny thing with Bridge Crew, even if you don't act... By the way, James got Bridge Crew, so you need to get it now. So we can all stream it.
I guess.
But the funny thing with Bridge Crew is, even... I've said this before, but even while you're playing... Because we've seen the trailers of the actors playing games. That's what happens. Like, me and David were with a random one time. Well, 2 randoms, but one of the guys was captain, and he would go through and helmsman all this. And then when we rotated positions, when I was the captain, he'd be like, "What do you want, captain?" Like, you do that. You say, "Hey, helmsman, do this," and it works out beautifully to where the game doesn't force you to use that communication. It just seems natural to do it. And when you're talking to somebody, it's like, okay, do that anyway. So I love, like, that's why I get lost in it. Granted, some of the stuff's repetitive. You're doing the same shit over and over again. That's my complaint with it, but
maybe that Back to Blood will be a little bit more interesting there. But I don't know if you have, like, a crew or not in that. I'm not sure.
I don't know, but Star Trek VR is the one that, like, I've literally gone in VR at, like, 8 o'clock and it's 4 a.m. And I was like, oh, fuck.
The only game aside from Resident Evil 7, I think, that's going to be able to do that to me to that extent, and a couple of them I've been really immersed in. I was really immersed in Archangel, but is Skyrim. I think Skyrim is just going to fucking do me in, honestly.
Skyrim will do David in.
I'm just never going to leave. I'm going to die. I'm going to be
He'll do the VR show from Skyrim.
He's going to come in on a Tuesday. I'm going to be sat there in a pile of my own urine, just twitching with the headset on.
Oh no, Skyrim's not multiplayer. It's like, if Skyrim's multiplayer, you just come join your virtual world. Be like, hey Tom, how you doing? Don't worry, you just like role play somebody in the world. Like,
maybe.
What are you doing at my house, bro?
So one sad bit of news. I'm swapping around the list here a little bit for your sake, but one sad bit of news that did come out after I think it was after, or at least they kind of explained it after the Paris Games Week, was that Moss, that we were talking about, little mouse game, has been delayed till next year. So it was supposed to be out before the end of the year. So it has in fact been delayed, and they've said until February 2018, which is not a long time to delay.
Again, I'd rather have a game delayed and be right than not.
Exactly.
But if they then delay it again, that becomes the issue.
So far, not worried about it. But if you were hoping to play Moss before the new year, then unfortunately you may be out of luck there. But it's not too far out.
Gives you time to play Skyrim.
Yeah, it gets you a chance to get all the other stuff out of your system.
That's probably what they were like, actually, we're delaying because Skyrim's coming out and we don't know how well that's going to do.
Yeah. That's so much writing on that game, honestly.
Yeah.
We were talking about it earlier, but we'll talk about it later. So the other thing was that Japan released a special, Sony Japan released a special, I guess a sizzle reel, debuting winter releases for PSVR around the same time that Paris Games Week dropped, and it showcased a bunch of non-Paris games, basically games that we kind of knew were coming anyway, but they just confirmed a bunch. Yeah, so stuff we've talked about on the show maybe, but that you might not be aware of. So the third Summer Lessons DLC is dropping with the rich girl. I forget her name. Gungrave is in there. Zone of the Enders was in there. Kowloon's Gate was in there, which is such a weird demo. But the full game of that is out now, I think. And then Dark Eclipse, which is a game I'd never heard of. So I might have to do some homework on that one. But yeah, so Japan dropped this really cool kind of winter release schedule trailer. And again, that's nice that they're saying like all of these will be out in winter. But you know, winter technically extends a little bit further. So yeah. But I thought it was cool that they did that, and they were separate games. It's like they tailored it to the market. So for those people that thought the Sizzle Reel on the Paris Games Week was all you were getting, don't forget that you can still pick up those Asian titles. You know,
they're region free.
They're region free. You can pick them up at the Hong Kong store. Just need a Hong Kong account, or hopefully they just translate them and bring them over. But they still haven't done that with like Summer Lessons or anything. So
you go to the Japanese store if you know Japanese.
If you know Japanese, I mean, you can still navigate it, but it's just hard. So many people have replied to me on that fucking Japanese, how to make a Japanese account thread. They're like, I don't know what to do when I get there. And I'm just like, just look for a word that says PlayStation VR. Anyway, here's where I bring us all down temporarily. And this is the point of contention that me and Keegan have had all morning. So let's get it out of the way.
Buckling up. I'm sitting up straight for this one, guys.
So
CCP.
We had a really awesome showing from Sony, I feel, as far as like, here's a bunch more VR. Remember the VR we gave you at E3? Here's like 15 VR games, 10 VR games, whatever it was, between Japan and the US. And then, so everyone felt like pretty supported, I think, from the community. Everyone was just like, yeah, it feels like Sony's actually like doubling down. Like it was almost like PlayStation 4, VR, and then whatever the fuck else. Like they didn't really... Like, they almost made VR half the show. Not, like, necessarily, like, content-wise, but it felt like they were pushing that really hard, especially during the pre-show, which was, in some ways, I thought, better than the whole show. But, so I think no one can sort of, at this point, doubt Sony's commitment to trying to push VR.
Oh,
this made us
you
sad.
question me.
Well, that's we'll get into that later. But at this point, there was a sad little bit of news that dropped. Well, I say a little bit, pretty big hammer of a bit of news that dropped just yesterday, just last night before recording, and that was that developers CCP Games, who are responsible for Eve, Valkyrie, and Sparc, and Gunjack as well. But yeah, for three, I guess, really huge titles for PSVR have said they are ceasing VR development. So they're just not doing it anymore. And the kind of the story behind it, and I don't want to read the whole thing, but kind of the vibe that we got from all of the announcements around it were that they had kind of just broken even on some of the things they put out there, like Eve specifically, and that they were kind of done. So here's a little bit about it. Icelandic business website mbl.is has just reported that Eve Online developers CCP Games is planning to close 2 of its offices and cease all VR game development. The move affects over 100 staff worldwide, with the Atlanta office in the United States being closed and the Newcastle studio being sold off. The Newcastle office was the development house responsible for the VR dogfighter Eve Valkyrie, which released as a bundled launch title for the Oculus Rift and has since been released on PlayStation VR and as a non-VR PC title. The move will see CCP pull out of the VR market for the time being, focusing instead on PC and mobile development. Just threw up on my mouth a bit. The studio secured a $30 million US investment specifically for VR games back in 2015, and CEO Hilmar Peterson revealed back in March of this year that the company had only recently broken even on that investment. Despite having some success with Valkyrie, Gunjack, and its recently released VR sports title Sparc, CCP acknowledged that the limited opportunities and growth it sees in VR as a platform over the next several years. Ouch. Burn. So here is the quote. With regard to Eve, it's kind of bittersweet that this puts us in a more solid position going forward, as a lot more focus is back on Eve Online, its services, and all the technology and support around it. The Eve Online development team was not impacted at all by these changes and remains the same size, working towards the same goals and features that have already been announced. We still have very big plans for Eve Online and everything we've announced, plus more. It's still going ahead, so there shouldn't be any concerns from our pilots in that respect. So kind of a shitty statement, because it's almost like they basically said we don't believe in VR.
So I feel like this is what I've been saying. So
okay,
I know.
Get your rant in. There's more, but
no,
get your rant.
I'm not gonna rant. But I feel like this is what I've been saying. And you always joke that I say put on your business hat. Right now, VR.
I'm gonna get you.
VR is not making money. Sony, you use the argument Sony might be making money, but if Sony's making the hardware money, the software money is not going to be there. If there's no software money, you're not going to make games for it. Period. And that's what it sounds like here. Is like, hey, 2015, that's 2 years ago. They had a $30 million investment, broke even, and I think we can both agree that wasn't Gunjack like the #1 game?
Yeah.
And Eve sold pretty well. I mean,
Eve did good.
The price tag I think put a lot of people off. I was disappointed with it. And then Sparc, I have no idea on sales, but Sparc had a lot of hype around it.
Sparc is definitely
but I don't know
one of the better releases this year and one that has had the most praise.
And keep that in mind when it is coming to this of like, these are I would say probably 3 of potentially top 10, maybe I'll even go top 25 because I don't know what actual sales because you have Resident Evil, Farpoint, all that in there, that now are closed. And there's always a reason for them to close. And I think there's 2 ways I can look at this. The way I look at this initially is VR can't make us money. And that kind of sucks because I feel that you have a small audience and you have a small audience within the audience that's going to buy your game. The other way I look at it is the statement where he says we're focused on PC and mobile development. We know how much money there is in mobile development. We understand that. We know how much money is in PC development. So the question would be then, are they not making money in VR? They broke even on that investment.
They broke even on $30 million. That's a lot of money.
2 years.
Yeah, but that's still a lot of money to make up on a system that is first gen.
They broke even from an investment from somebody else, not their money.
Yeah,
they broke even, so that does not include the money that doesn't. But that doesn't include any money they put into it.
Right.
So they put in to buy these studios. They're selling the studio off. They got to recoup those assets, that kind of thing. So you can look at it either in the light of VR's not making them money, or you can look in the light, and this is partially how I think it is PC and mobile have more money to them. I think it's a little bit of both. It's never black or white.
I think you're right. I mean, I did bring up the argument that it is interesting that the games that seem to be falling off the radar more are the multiplayer-only games. I don't know if that's just because, like I said about Ubisoft earlier, how they kind of have seemed to have slowed down a little bit in the VR development world.
But everybody will go to Werewolves. If you go into Star Trek, I still don't have an issue finding a game, but they also do cross-platform, so that might fix it.
But it's, yeah, so it's, I don't know, it's like, it feels like companies that focus mostly on, and I know you can kind of play Eve single player, but it's not the same. Companies that seem to be focusing more on multiplayer seem to be having a harder time of things.
Or they're the ones
worry
saying
that that's like because I worry almost that that's like the Riggs effect. Like when Riggs came out, everyone was pumped on it, and then the developer just fucking closed right off the bat, and everyone was like, "Oh great, now I pay $50 for a game that's not supported and is never going to have another update and probably still has bugs and glitches and shit like that." So I think there's this kind of like nervousness around multiplayer VR games because there is not a great audience for multiplayer VR games yet. I think VR inherently is a better single player experience because of the immersion level. Because even though like for you, like Werewolves is a great time with your friends, and Star Trek you get into role and you have fun. For someone like me, like and I'm sure many others, like stuff like Resident Evil 7, give me a 10-hour immersive experience of that level. I want to be alone.
So the question I'll ask you this on that argument is, does that limit VR?
Says what?
Does that limit the audience for VR?
I think to begin with, again, this is like something that I think that is like the immersion level is why you want it. So the games that immerse you the most, Farpoint, Resident Evil, etc., Until Dawn, like those are the ones that you start with because that's why people want virtual reality, to be immersed. But the multiplayer is cool, and when implemented well, and we'll look at Rec Room later because I think that's a perfect implementation of multiplayer, when implemented well is a really, really fun experience because everyone's kind of seeing the same, immersion. But I don't think the player base is there to necessarily support what they wanted to support. Remember, Eve was a whole lot of microtransactions as well. So even though, like, the one thing that does surprise me is that I thought Sparc was enough of a success to keep this fucking studio afloat. Because Sparc was so well received. There's no one that's played Sparc that's come back and said,
but again, you're coming to critical mass.
Right.
If there's only, I don't know, 1.5 million, 2 million headsets out there, that's the max you can sell.
Yeah.
Odds are you're only selling maybe 10% of that. So, like, and how much we know how much it takes to make games now, and I can only imagine with VR because R&D costs are probably a lot higher than a normal game, and that's where I have the concern. So the other argument I have with your single player games, and again, it's always comes back to that critical mass. It's it's every platform that's ever existed beforehand. It's like, do you make the software first? Do you make the hardware first? How do you sell it?
Yeah.
Like when Blu-ray came out, Blu-ray's not going to stay because there's no Blu-rays to play on the Blu-ray player. Well, we need a Blu-ray player to play the Blu-rays. And I feel like we're stuck in that right now. And I don't want to say, and I've said this from the get-go, I don't think VR is going to die. VR will stick around. Stuff like this scares me about the future of VR.
It definitely doesn't help.
Not as in it's going to go away, but as in it's not going to be fully fledged. Because think about it. A VR headset is half the cost, or same cost, as a PS4. And if I can only play maybe 4 games a year, is that worth $400 when then I can play on PlayStation 4 and get that many games?
I do think that VR players buy more games.
I agree with that, but there's also, again, the average consumer, though, probably doesn't have that disposable income. That's what I'm getting at. Like the person that... So here's the example. If I have a PlayStation 4, if I buy a PSVR that's $400, let's just say I'm a hoarder and I buy collector's editions or the gold edition of everything. It's $100, so it's easy math. I could buy 4 games with season passes that'll last me longer than I could buy for a headset. Plus, then whatever I pay for games, so I'm getting $500-$600 range there.
It's rare to get a game that's over $20 in VR, though. Like
correct,
a lot of the experiences are small.
But you're already paying $400 and then $20, and that $20 adds up. That's what I'm saying. Like the cost keeps going up, and then you get peripherals. Like we're lucky because we have the advantage to buy this stuff. We do it because of the show a lot of the times too, but the average...
you guys force us into being broke.
And I would love to know your guys' perspective on it. Like, for me growing up, I'm just basing it on my experience. When I grew up, I got maybe 3 to 4 video games a year. That's just the way it was. And my parents had disposable income. That's just what it was. I got it at birthday and I got it at Christmas, and I played those games. Maybe Madden in the middle somewhere.
You weren't super hardcore growing up, though.
No.
Like now, you buy more games.
But that being... Also, I mean, I buy them a lot for the show, too. Like, right now, think about the games I've played. I still play Elder Scrolls Online 2015. I play Overwatch, which was last year. I play Destiny 2 is my new one. Division has gone away, but, like, those would be the games I would play. I wouldn't really play much of the other games if it wasn't for the show, I don't think.
And they're all multiplayer games.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's just what I play.
It's a solid argument. Like I'm not really gonna.
I'm not trying to argue it. I'm not trying to be like you're wrong in this because I don't think
really
there's
want
a real
to,
answer.
but you're not.
No, I don't. I just feel like it's been this is echoing what I've been saying from the get-go, that VR does not make money. And if it does, I want somebody to come out and say, "Hey, our profits from a VR title or a VR something was this." I know nobody will because they want to keep their money secret.
I think it's doing better than people think it is, and I think that this
better doesn't pay the bills, though.
I'm not finished yet.
Better does not pay the bills.
I have some news later in here that counterbalances a lot of this stuff, so don't get too excited. But I think that it is a big blow to the world of VR. It's very sad to see that company go, because they're a talented company. Like, the stuff they're putting out is top notch.
Also, I hope these over 100 people find jobs elsewhere.
Yeah,
that's
me
the
too.
other thing too.
That's the sad part. The kind of the silver lining, I guess, to this is that the Newcastle studio, the ones that were responsible for Eve Valkyrie, were the ones that were sold, which means they are actually still able to continue development on Eve Valkyrie.
Do you know who they were sold to?
I don't, but I'll give you some information. So here's the post that the Newcastle studio for CCP did. As you may have heard, we announced today that we're working with another company to transition the ownership of CCP's Newcastle studio into new hands. So far, no news.
No name.
Hopefully Sony.
It won't be.
Well, I know. What does this mean for everyone's favorite first-person spaceship shooter? Well, the starters, we can confidently confirm that Eve Valkyrie Warzone is not going away. We love the game just as much as we love our players, so you can rest assured that we'll continue to support the product in the future. The development team at Newcastle Studio will remain intact and complete work on the upcoming winter update for Eve Valkyrie Warzone, so don't panic. You'll still receive in-game support for custom matches, tournament tools, and a spectator mode before the end of the year. Our CEO Hilmar Viger Peterson said, "I couldn't be more proud of our VR games and, more importantly, of the people here who made them. This statement rings true for everyone at CCP. This is not the end of Eve Valkyrie, not by a long shot. It's just the beginning." Sorry, that's not my fault. That's in here. It's just the beginning of a new chapter. Welcome to the next life. So, I mean, a tiny upside there, that even though CCP is going to stop development on VR, they're not stopping protecting the games that are already out. At least Eve Valkyrie. No news on Sparc. I don't.
I'm interested to see who bought it because obviously whoever has control over it can determine what happens with it. That's the only thing right now is like, again, being the Debbie Downer in here is like, I hope they don't touch it. I hope it's one of those things they just bought it to keep it going.
Yeah.
Just let them do their thing.
And clearly the studio is talented, so like keep doing it. And it could just be it's for CCP, like you said. I think more than anything, it's a monetarily decision on their behalf that they're just looking at their income coming from VR and going, it's not worth it. When they can just dive into whatever the fuck they want to, and they want to dive into mobile and PC.
That's what scares me about other developers, though. That's where I have the issue.
Don't worry,
that's
that's
a concern.
We'll get there. All right,
I know what your answer is, and I got a rebuttal for that one as well later on.
No, you don't.
Let's go on. Let's move on to the next one because I kind of like this tweet.
So to pick us back up after that sad bit of news about CCP, we have some good news about a game that we haven't heard about in a long time. You shared this with me, and that's that Dreams by Media Molecule got a special tweet around the PGW, that's Paris Games Week,
because they weren't there.
They weren't there. They were noticeably absent. But they said, "Congrats to all those WWS teams during showing at,
Worldwide Studios."
There you go. Showing at PGW, Paris Games Week. Those amazing trailers are getting us extra excited to share news soon. # Dreams PSVR. PS4.
Yeah. PS4. Freudian slip.
Same difference.
No.
Because it's coming out on both at the same time. So, but
they haven't announced anything.
Yeah, I mean they haven't given us any news.
They've not announced VR. They've not announced anything.
They have.
No, they haven't.
It was in the VR showcase. I'm pretty sure. On the original Project Morpheus thing, it was a PSVR game.
I am 99.9% sure that it has not been confirmed for VR.
Then why does everyone keep fucking asking?
Because they want it to be.
Yeah, weird.
See, this is where you get facts and rumors.
All right, fact check me, fucker. So, so Dreams, devs Media Molecule. Media Molecule, again, just stunning developer company, known for their work in like Little Big Planet and all that kind of stuff. But they've come out and said they're going to share some news soon, so we're all excited to see at least a little bit more about that game, which I think when the initial trailer dropped just blew a couple of minds and a couple of jaws were hitting said floor. So really excited.
The team has always expressed interest in adding VR support and even seemingly confirmed it on multiple occasions, though it's never been shown off public. In recent interviews, however, Media Molecule's head of studio has suggested VR integration was still happening, but nothing is officially confirmed.
There you go. So they've said it, but no one's come out and said.
They want to, but again, it's one of those things where like,
cool.
I'm on the wait and see.
That's a half a win. So a couple of quick ones for you, because we've been rocking and rolling for a while.
There's been a lot of news today.
Infinite Mini Golf Hangar 37 free DLC trailer dropped. So if you're a fan of Infinite Mini Golf, of which I've never played it, you haven't played this either yet, have you?
Look at it.
We wanted a good VR mini golf game, and then we looked at it and we were like, no, this is not what we wanted. We wanted something where I felt like I was playing, like I could swing the club and stuff. But yeah, they have free DLC, and again, this is a really good trend of free DLC for VR games. That's another one to add to the list of stuff like Not a Hero and Ancient Emulator and all the rest of it. And then Snowball Fortress. You shared this with me earlier. Do you want to talk about it?
I didn't watch it, so I don't know anything about it. I saw it on there. I was going through and making sure there wasn't. So again, the Paris.
It was one of those they snuck in. I still have to put it on the channel, actually, the trailer. But Snowball Fortress is basically it's a snowball fight in VR.
That's what it sounded like.
Fortress, you can throw snowballs at each other, and it looks great. It looks really fun. So yeah, I mean it's a little kind of janky, but not too terrible at all.
What does the fox say?
Ding 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 something. Throw a snowball. But yeah, so you get to like have a fort and throw snowballs, and I'm assuming it's multiplayer to some extent. But it looks really cool. So yeah, Snowball Fortress coming soon. And then The Perfect Sniper gets a teaser trailer as well. That's a new one coming to VR. Don't know a lot about this game, to be honest with you, but I do imagine a sniper game to be really fun in VR
if they can get the sights right.
If they can get the sights right, and depending on like how realistic they want to make.
Could you imagine with the move, if you or not the move, the aim? Yeah. If you get the aim to where like it felt perfect with the sights, that'd be wonderful.
That'd be sick.
The problem you have with that though is you'd hit your mask on the gun.
Well, what I'm wondering is like
you have to hold it out a little bit.
If you like, because they have like, there's some games that implement it pretty decently. Pixel Gear, for how kind of like small that game is, does sniping pretty good. You can literally just look down the barrel and you can see it, but it's like a sniper scope that's on a pistol, so it's weird. But to have a full-on sniper rifle, my question would be for Perfect Sniper is like, are they going to go deep with it and have like trajectory and drop ratio?
I don't think so.
And all that kind of stuff, or is it just going to be like Call of Duty aim and fire.
I would love what I would love to see work if it supports the aim, which it should if it's a shooting
I think
game.
it has to.
That if you raise the move or I keep calling the move, the aim up, this motion looks down the scope.
Yeah.
And it doesn't really matter. Then at that point, you're controlling your scope. You're not looking down the sights.
I think, I think it's. I think there's a lot of potential there. Again, bare bones released right now, but it's worth bringing up during our little thing here. Now, you asked about this game a little bit earlier. The other one is that we're finally getting released for Smash Hit Plunder, coming to PSVR in 2018, and this is by Triangular Pixels.
That's Triangle Pixels.
It's a good hit. So, UK development studio Triangular Pixels has today announced that Smash Hit Plunder will be launching on PlayStation VR. Revealed as part of Sony Interactive Entertainment's European Paris Games Week press conference, say that twice fast, the virtual reality VR exclusive Smash Hit Plunder will launch via the PlayStation Store in 2018. Set in a medieval castle sprinkled with ghostly inhabitants, Smash Hit Plunder sends the player as a young mage recently returned from magic school on a quest to delve into their family's fraught past. Alas, the mage's family squandered away their large fortune and rapidly lost their home to Mordred, a devious spiritual debt collector. With your quest now being to rebuild this fabulous wealth, players must use their spell-infused wands, played with either the PlayStation Move motion controllers or the DualShock 4 control pad, to uncover treasure, coins, and crowns with the hopes of bringing them back home. This is done by destroying, looting, and wrecking everything in sight. Players will charge through multiple dungeons and secret rooms, set things on fire, attack sneaky spirits, and smash as much as possible to find all the hidden gold. Smash Hit Plunder includes a full single-player campaign featuring a spooky boss and 5 different gameplay modes. So, it looks interesting.
In addition to single-player campaign, Smash Hit is designed to take advantage of the PSVR's many multiplayer opportunities. Up to 4 friends can either help the VR mage through the main campaign or battle each other in other manic versus modes using specifically designed 2D social screens for TV using DualShock 4 controllers.
Nice.
So that's
pretty exciting, though.
That to me, again, I think the only the art is a bit rough in my opinion. Basic. That's a better word for it. But I like that they have all these modes, and as long as they are full-fledged modes and not just like kind of tacked on.
And this is a game that's been popular. Like, it's been released on other VR platforms. Other platforms have, like, the people have spoken and said this is a good game. So if nothing else, it's a strong title that is previously Oculus or Vive and is coming to PSVR, and that is what we like to see. So I put this in here because this is often a conversation that we have. Strange Game Studios. So Strange Game Studios gives another well-detailed update on Honor and Duty VR. So this is what I love. We talked about how, like, when they're going to do a delay or whatever, like, it's nice when they explain why they're doing it as opposed to just being like, we need more time. So this is directly from Strange Game Studios. Just wanted to give another update on the H&D VR update. The update was close to being done earlier this week, and we did a check back against the list Sony wanted fixed and found a few items that have been overlooked. We worked on those things and began doing final checks and fixes for all the miscellaneous things you spot right at the end. At this point, we're down to one issue, which is a frame rate drop when the player is created at the start of a level. Today was spent tracking that down by making a build, deploying, seeing if it was still there, removing some other components, and repeating. The last component we tried ended up being the one causing it. Now we just have to investigate the inner workings of this component and find out where it's causing a momentary freeze. Other than that, everything appears to be in good shape. The last issue might be a few hours or a few days. It's in the UFPS middleware, and there's no telling how easy or difficult it may be. We'll know more shortly. The good news is that the menus in VR look so much better now than we have in, the depth conflict fixed, which actually feel like they're just in front of you, whereas before they seemed kind of flat. God, I love that. I fucking love that. I love that they're just like, dude, this is where the bug is, and this is what it's doing, and we're this far into solving it, and I think that's wonderful. Like, Honor and Duty VR might be like shit, because honestly, Honor and Duty does not look necessarily stellar, but I've never played it, so again, I hesitate to delve in. But God, I love that. I love that as an explanation for why a game is delayed. What do you think about that?
Oh, I like it. The only part that I'm like, well, is we checked against the list Sony wanted us fixed, and we'd overlooked items. That to me is being a little sloppy there, but I agree that going through and saying, hey, this
At least they're doing the work, though.
Some of the and then when it's in the UFPS middleware, like I don't know what that is.
That
I
might
guess
be
for
a little
somebody,
too far, maybe. Like that, I was like,
but in general, yes,
still.
I agree. It's like this is why it's delayed. This is what we're working on. We don't have a time because we don't know how long it's going to take to fix it, but we've narrowed it down.
Okay.
I do like that explanation.
Great news. So it turns out that hands-on with Skyrim VR, teleportation is VR without teleportation is much more immersive. Who'd have thought it?
I called it last week. I said you're going to want to play with the DualShock 4.
Yeah. The first time this is directly from Upload, which we're still sketch on that company, but it's good information. So the first time I tried the Elder Scrolls 5 Skyrim VR at E3 2017 earlier this year, I was optimistic. For me, it was enough just to visit the world of Tamriel from inside the immersive confines of a VR headset. However, it had some major flaws. Until now, the only demo we'd seen required you to teleport around the game world using the PlayStation's Move controllers. Needless to say, it was a lackluster implementation, and when compared to Fallout 4 VR, the issues were even more prominent. Thankfully, yesterday at a private PlayStation press event in San Francisco, California, I got the chance to try a vastly updated build of Skyrim VR. The latest demo was essentially the entire game, not just a pre-scripted section, and featured both PS Move and DualShock 4 controller support. Finally, this was the VR edition of Skyrim I'd imagined. And he goes on, basically, the link is in the description below if you want to read the whole thing here. But basically, they're saying that since the implementation of full locomotion with the DualShock, that Skyrim is what you wanted. And again, we talked about this last week. There is so much writing on this game, so that's great news to hear. It's a really good update, and I'm super pumped to hear that like the motion version of it is what you want it to be, which is just basically normal Skyrim controls in a headset. That's all I want. That's all I want.
See, I'd prefer to use the Move, but like I said,
I mean, the Move
like I said
might
last,
be fun for slashing and stuff.
Like I said last week, you're gonna want to play with DualShock 4.
Yeah.
I've not played it, but I mean,
they have a full locomotion version with the moves, where you can, I think, do all the controlling. But then, like we were talking about, how we don't know the buttons are going to work. Cause clearly, you have to deal with like spell shuffling and all that kind of stuff.
You don't want to Harry Potter that shit with like.
Yeah, so
that sucked.
Because throwing things in VR is my nemesis. I can't fucking do it, man. Every time, super hot especially. If I have to throw like an ashtray or something, I'm like, I just fucking give in. I can't do it. Like, I don't know when to like let go properly. I just like, I end up going like that, and it just goes like pring off there somewhere. I don't know. Maybe I'm just bad at it.
You are. I was gonna say I have no issue. I have no issue throwing things in VR, but I also play a lot of Job Simulator where I throw a bunch of shit everywhere.
Well, yeah, you're not supposed to, but yeah, you do that.
Hey, Karen. Sorry.
Hey, Jobbot. This is the one I wanted to put in as a flip side. It's the CCP, and it is actually from Supermassive, who, let's be honest, are like kings of VR right now. There's so many good-looking things that Supermassive have managed to do and are doing. 2 games by the end of the year as well. They're supposedly like monsters. So Until Dawn, Supermassive Games say VR is incredibly important to them. In a recent interview with Develop, Simon Harris, executive producer at the studio, said VR is incredibly important to Supermassive. We've been lucky enough to have been involved in building VR content for 4 years now, starting with early demos for PlayStation VR. By the end of the year, we will have launched 4 games for PSVR, the most for an independent studio. Sony remains an important partner for us, but our VR ambitions stretch across multiple platforms. That's worth pointing out. Looking at the current state of the VR industry, Harris goes on to say, there is a great deal of discussion and hype around the size and value of the VR business, but the bottom line is that we have to focus on delivering the best possible experiences on the platforms we are working on. Only great content is going to encourage people to buy headsets. From our perspective, VR is delivering on what we'd hoped, which is an incredible new way to experience games. We think that we are only starting with what we can do in VR, so we have really high expectations on what we can deliver. And then goes on to say some stuff about multiplayer being great, and again, list the full description and interview in the thing below. But what's your take on that as opposed to CCP? Supermassive just saying, for us, it's great.
From our perspective, VR is delivering on what we hope, which is an incredible new way to experience games.
Completely the opposite of what CCP said.
Nope, does not make money. They said it's from a creative standpoint, this is doing great. It's what we want it to be from a creative standpoint. Again,
But
they never mentioned anything.
They didn't mention money. That's the point. You can't say it's not making money because they didn't mention it. We don't know how much Supermassive is making. We do know that they're an indie studio that has 4 games in VR.
So their ambition is to go to other platforms. And in this line here, there's a great deal of discussion and hype about the size and value of VR or the VR business. But the bottom line is we have to focus on delivering the best possible experiences on the platforms we're working on, which means, hey, we probably aren't making money, but we're doing the best we can to get on that platform. That's how I read that. Okay. Is again, if they're going to say they wouldn't word that specifically if that's not the case. I love that they're putting all into this, and I want developers that do that because again, it's like I said earlier, you have to sell the headset to sell the software, and you have to have the software to sell the headset.
This is something you've always said as well, is that your main concern was all the bargain, the
shovelware
stuff. Yeah.
So this is what I want out of VR, but it also scares me because they're not. The people like this though could pull a CCP and go to business. That's the part that scares me. It's what I want, but they also, I understand, like you have to have the money maker to sustain yourself.
I think Sony probably helps out a lot because they are a partner, but I think that if you put CCP's statement in line with Supermassive, like let's say that Supermassive were to come out and say we're stopping development of VR games, I would be a lot more scared if Supermassive did it than if CCP does it. And again, I think it's just because Supermassive has been focusing on these like super intense single player experiences.
Oh, they said multiplayer is important.
Yeah, that's what they want to implement. They're saying, but with Bravo Team when that comes out, but just with stuff like the Inpatient, which just looks incredible every time you see it. I think that this is a company that's sticking up for VR and is saying, you know what, we love it too much to let it go, which is what we need. We need developers to be like, it's okay to make a little bit of a loss to begin with, in the hopes that
as long as you don't go to business, you're fine.
Yeah,
because the pay, it's the risk reward. If you're there at the beginning, like think about the games industries as a whole. One of the games industry that was there, or one of the companies that was there at the beginning was EA. Look how fucking large EA is. Like, it's because they're there at the beginning. They're able to grow with it. So that's kind of how this is. Like, when I talk the business side of things, it's because you need these companies to sustain themselves. Because if you get to the point, maybe we're 90% of the way to VR hitting the mainstream, and then that's the breaking point where nobody has any money left, and the whole industry falls out. That's my concern. It's not because I don't want VR to be successful. It's not because I think I do think there's a lot of shit VR games right now. I think the quality needs to be better. But Supermassive, I am a huge fan of because of what they show us. It's always fantastic. It's always great. I just am concerned for them as a business with the business model they are currently running.
I'd love to know more about their,
they'll never do financials because I think it's a private company.
Yeah,
that's the thing.
I don't think so either. But I would love to know.
But that's my take. I love though, from a creative standpoint, from the quality of work they do. I will easily Supermassive. When I hear Supermassive, easily a $40 game that I have no question buying.
Yeah.
Period. And that's to me what VR needs to be. And then from there, hopefully, like they're saying, our software will then move the headset, so then it'll just start the snowball effect. I think right now we're not. The snowball is not really rolling that quickly.
We're getting there though. Like that's the thing. Like Paris, like when you have London Studios stepping up and saying, "Look what we've been doing," and you have Supermassive that already have these games on the way. You have Moss, which is by like fucking some.
But you have somebody like CCP going out. Like that to me is
one company.
That's one big company.
Yeah.
That's one big company.
Admittedly. But,
and then you have all these shovelware. Like, that's, again, the thing is, like, and there's always going to be shovelware. I know there's always going to be shovelware, but to convince people to buy the headset, you have to show them that there's great experiences on the headset. To get people to make great experiences on the headset, you got to sell the headset.
Yeah.
And it's really weird because I want VR to be successful, and I want it to continue, and I want it to be this awesome, amazing thing. As I've said before, I think the cost of the headset holds consumers back, which then developers are probably a little bit later because your player pool is smaller. But the fact that somebody like Supermassive, I just hope they are not digging themselves into a hole that they can't get out of. Because if you go $30 million in debt, like CCP, where they took that investment, and they just broke even over 2 years. Like, if somebody doesn't have that investment, how long can you sustain yourself? Because they don't have that game.
Well, the interesting thing is that if they just broke even with the initial investment, now they have all the stuff there, and if they put out another solid full-length game, they may have started.
No, they broke even on that investment. They did not break even on their other stuff.
Well, I'm just saying, like they made that investment, they completed that investment,
Yes.
right?
Well,
so at that point, after the
paid
investment is completed, is profit from that point out.
No, it's not, because you have to put stuff back in to make the new IP.
Well, obviously some of it, but I mean, they could have let it roll on for a little bit longer. I mean, Sparc's still like practically new. That's only been out for a month or so.
But you've got to work on something else. That's the thing. Like, if you look at the games industry as a business is a horrible like way to do an industry, because think about it. I'll use GTA is probably bad. I'll use like Uncharted or somebody that sells quite a bit of games, but they're not the biggest seller. They're not Call of Duty, not any of that. So Uncharted, when it comes out, giant spike at the beginning, and you have a lot of money, and then it whittles off. And during this, you've got to sustain yourself with that money you've made to make the next game to get the next giant spike. And people are not good at managing money in general. People like you have to project how much your game is going to sell to predict how much you can put into the next game to continue it going. And if it's your first game, you obviously don't have that initial spike. You've got to kind of temper your expectations,
Find
and
your
that's
funding.
So that's
Which is where Sony comes in for Supermassive, but yeah.
Yeah, but that's the thing is like the games industry, and again, I talk a lot of business on here, but that's the truth. It's a horrible business model to run, but it's the way it's been for years, and I don't know how you would fix that or change that. Games as service is the only way that I think that's really changing it right now.
And the last bit of news that we have for this week is good news for me. I'm assuming you're indifferent.
I've never seen any episode of this
I didn't think you would have. It is a horror show.
I watched the first episode, and I was like, yeah, no.
No, too scary.
No, I just didn't get into it, and I knew it was gonna be scary, and I was like,
I just finished the second season.
No spoilers.
No spoilers, but it's fucking fantastic. Like, everything about this show is firing on all cylinders right now. The second season was infinitely more big and just kind of cinematic and beautiful than the first season. So, yeah, I think this show is doing really great right now. And that is, of course, Stranger Things. So, this morning, at time of recording, Sony went ahead and dropped the bomb that they are going to be making a Stranger Things, the VR experience for PSVR. It looks a lot like Paranormal Activity VR experience, but the trailer is not a lot of information. It's literally just like the lights, the famous lights that light up on the alphabet, and then it just kind of plays the music, and that's it.
And it has the logo.
Right. But it's such a good show that if they manage to pull off like an interesting experience, I'd be totally down for it. I mean, it's not like the It experience. It's not cinematic. It's a game.
They have to have the right developer behind it.
Yeah.
Because like if it's another Spider-Man, it's going to be one of those things like this could have been cool, but it's not. But if like
I'm definitely nervous.
That's like right now I think with Marvel, I think is doing it right, where Marvel is now hiring studios that do good work. Like the fucking Insomniac Spider-Man looks amazing.
Yeah.
And people are hyped about it because they got the right developer working on the right game. If you get the right developer working on this, it could be great. I just hope they're not trying to sell it on the IP.
Yeah.
I hope there's something there.
But yeah, hopefully the game is well put together when it releases. But it is, as far as I know, as well an exclusive to PSVR. So that's kind of cool. So if you're a fan, of course, of Stranger Things, then keep your eye out for that. You did see a brief clip of the trailer, which I'm almost definitely sure is done by now because it was a very short one. But we're really, really excited to see that come into PSVR. Just to end on a slightly happier note. So moving on from news to the spotlight, because we have been running long today, so I'm going to try and keep this one short for you. The spotlight this week is on a game called Rec Room. Now, Rec Room is not a finished game. It was announced during the Paris Games Week as soon-to-be finished game for PSVR. It's already been out on some of the other VR systems for a long time. However, the beta is live, and we were lucky enough to get a code to go and check it out as press. So we jumped in, I jumped in, and sort of spent some time in there. And I gotta say, it's an interesting one. It's really, really kind of what I wanted it to be. I think it's going to be infinitely better with friends. I was playing largely with randoms, and I still had a good time, which is rare for me, believe me. But I think if like you were to get it, and David were to get it, and Tigrata were to get it, then we could have a really good time with it. So the basics around Rec Room are that essentially you start the game in your dorm room, and that's kind of where you get to change your outfit or whatever. But you have essentially like a me avatar, the equivalent of a me avatar. And you look goofy and everything. You can move your hands around, and you can like wave your head and stuff, but that's about it as far as like gestures and stuff. Which is, I mean, you could do quite a lot with just your hands. But so playing the beta, a lot of it was closed off because it was beta. So they only had a couple of experiences that were live. Now you have the Rec Room area itself, which is, think of it as a hub world.
It's like it's a recreational room. It's a gymnasium.
Yeah, it's a gymnasium.
It's the best way to look at it. Like a YMCA club, if you're familiar with those, that kind of thing.
Absolutely. And there is stuff to do in there, which is kind of fun. There's lots of mini games. So there's like darts, there's basketball.
I saw you, I think you were shooting the basketball and you failed epically.
Oh, dude, it's so hard. It's way harder than you think.
I think you got to stuck behind the door or something. You're like,
did I not tell you before I could not throw things in VR? I was just like, boom, and it was like, boom. I was like, oh, what the fuck?
And then it was on the floor and you couldn't get it back up.
No, I couldn't pick it up because you have to like Jedi mind trick stuff to you.
Well, that's like, what was that one game that did that too? Expect You to Die did that as well. You just
yeah, I mean, it's fun, but and then darts was cool. I mean, it was pretty. I could throw the dart. I could do that. I wanted to throw it at another player, but I didn't. There was no one around when I was playing. And then ping pong was kind of cool. It was like the it was like Forrest Gump ping pong. So it was not like you versus someone else. It's like the folded table where you're just doing that.
Yeah, I saw you feel miserably at that.
That was hard too, man. Leave me alone, Jesus. but it's fun to goof around with. You know? I went up to the top area, picked up a basketball, and I'm like trying to score from the fucking from the top balcony area, and like people were just fucking around. But like you could see when you were walking around a basketball court, like where people had hit shots from that would recently been in the hub. So it was kind of cool that they like kept their scores there.
Kind of like a horse or a challenge.
Yeah, exactly. It was like Jason, what's his face, just hit a shot from here. So you're like, oh, I'm gonna take a couple steps back here, see what I can do. But that's not the core experience. That's just like the hangout joint. You can talk to people in there. There wasn't a lot of talkative people when I was there. Like no one seemed to want to use their mics. I know they all had mics because they had fucking headset, but there was not that many people that were
Did you yell like, "Hey, talk to me"?
No, I did not.
That's your problem.
I'm a recluse.
You should be like, I need friends. I'm in Uncle Tom's touchy basement.
Tom's touchy basement. So they have quests, like doors that lead to quests, which are like traditional quests in which there's like several chapters to them. You go through them with your friends. Think of it as like a Destiny raid or whatever you want to call it.
That might be a bit much. But
not that hardcore at all. But they're just fun, doofy things to do, right? And they all have like narrative stories. Like one of them looks like it's a pirate thing. Another one looks like it's a robot thing. The one that I did was called like Legends of the something gold, and there was like goblins and stuff, and when you go into the room like with your buddies, you get to pick like, oh, I want an arrow, I want a shield, I want a sword and a shield, or whatever, and
then a toothpick.
Yeah, if you want.
Fight with a toothpick.
And then you can go in like as your group, and like you get these robot goblins that drop down and start charging you, and you like just start slashing around. Dude, I hit my hands so many times on that fucking dog sleeping bed over there. Like I wrecked my
That's why you should stand up while you're playing.
I was standing up. I was swinging, man. And
like when I punched the mic in the hall.
Yeah, I hit the ceiling at one point too. But I got really into it.
Wait, you could reach the ceiling?
Yes. Asshole. But yeah, so I got really into it. But the milk and cookies of this game are the kind of sporting events, and there was 3 that were available in the beta. Charades, which I have no idea how that would go. I imagine it'd be quite fun, but there was no one wanted to play charades, so I didn't get to play that. But paintball and disc frisbee were 2 that were playable.
Disc golf.
The disc golf?
Disc golf.
Okay, makes sense.
Also known as frolf, frisbee golf.
Okay, frolf
I played the crap out of disc golf.
So, so those 2 were available to play. The paintball was capture the flag. So you have to make your way to the flag, pick it up, and then, capture it, and then make your way back to your base and then plant it. All the while...
Is it a one-shot death?
Yes.
Like one shot, you're right. Because that's how normal paintball.
It's one shot respawn.
Well, I'd say that's how normal paintball works. You shot, you're out of the match.
Yeah, it's like they just like respawn somewhere like kind of close, but like far enough away that they can't just instantly.
It's a disadvantage.
Yeah, exactly. But I gotta say that one was a little bit difficult in terms of the teleportation, and I understand why. And I mentioned this in the full review that we have up somewhere
on our channel.
On our channel.
That's where it is.
But the difficulty that I had was like I'm so used to teleportation letting me go like really far in VR games, because most VR games will let you go as far as the moves will take you. But with this, it was slightly muted for obvious reasons. You're doing capture the flag, so you couldn't just like zip over to the other side of the map, grab it, and then zip right back over. So like I found myself kind of having to like temper my expectations of how far I could move, and at the same time I'm keeping out for my friend Manu. It's actually Manu was the guy, but his mom was the one that was playing. Sweet Spanish lady or Mexican lady, I don't know, speaking Spanish. And and she was just like
Hispanic.
she was like, "Hello, it's my first time." She was very sweet, and I was fucking owning her. Like I felt real bad about it. I was like,
were you like, it's my first time too. I run a VR channel if you want to see yourself on
I didn't tell her that. Maybe Manu will find me. But so I had a really good time playing paintball with her. I mean, she was struggling, but it was perfect for me because I was learning how to play, so it kind of worked out because we were figuring the whole thing out together. And then I went like, okay, I'm done with paintball. It was really good, really good. Like lots of places to hide. There was verticality to it. It felt fun.
How weird was so? Yeah, I assume you ended a match and you left. Like, can you talk to each other in the lobby at the end?
You can talk to each other for everything, through the rec rooms, through the experience, through everything.
I assume it loads though. Like when you go to play paintball, it loads a new.
Yeah,
session.
I mean, so when you go into the server, it waits for as many people as possible to play the game. The weird part was in the beta, like as soon as one person joined, it just started.
Because it probably was like, we don't have enough players.
Right, so that was kind of frustrating, but I think in the full game, that's not going to be a thing.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Beta keys that he gave out.
Right, so that was cool, but then I was like, okay, I'm just going to go and check out the Frisbee golf thing. So I go over to that, and then... sure as shit, there's Manu, and I'm like, yes, let's do this, Manu. So it's 9 holes, and that was super fun. It was really fun.
Have you ever played Frolf in real life?
No.
I need to introduce you to my friend Jack Daniels, not the alcohol, but the man. And
I'd rather the alcohol, but sure.
I think he drinks Jack Daniels, but he's plays a lot. My buddies in War of Ages, when they're on tour, Jack always has his, I'm gonna call it a suitcase because that's pretty much the size of it is, of just discs for disc golf. Yeah.
So it's not really an English thing, I'll be honest. It's very much an American thing.
I didn't know it was a thing until I moved to the South. So
yeah, and it's fun. It was a good time. So with that, the throwing was hit or miss, but again, I am more than likely blaming myself for that as opposed to the game mechanics, because I think that like I would nail it like a lot, but then sometimes I'd like throw a zinger and it would just go like psh, over there somewhere.
Did momentum seem to make a difference?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It really feels like you're like flinging that thing. It was really funny. Like
playing with moves.
Yeah.
Don't let go of the moves.
Yeah, it's all teleportation and all move based. But like, there was little like touches that made it so special. Like I'm waiting because you have to wait for the other person to finish their round before you can move on to the next tee. And so like Manu is struggling, bless her heart, and she's throwing it around. And I stumbled across this like I guess it was like a bar that had like water on top of it. So I'm like, that's weird. So I grabbed some water and I'm like, I wonder what happens if. So I pull it back. Sure enough, water starts dripping all over him. To my mouth, he's going like glug glug glug, and there was a trash can next to me. I'm like, well, I'm gonna be responsible and throw it in the trash can. I was like, that was so cool. Like I just went up and randomly drank some water and threw it in the trash can.
Welcome to Job Simulator.
Yeah, just a small little fun thing to throw in while I'm waiting for Manu to do her thing. And then I picked up some by like I'm like pouring it in the hole by her, like in the little thingy, the little basket, I guess they call it. But I'm just like, it's right here, just like splash. It was a good time. We had a really good time. And
did you tomahawk the Frisbees at any point?
No.
So that's
it was all sideways.
So the pro move is little disc golf background, but if you throw it this way, that means that's usually for more controlled, more accuracy based. If you want to go power, you tomahawk it and you get a little bit of spin on it, so it flattens out where you throw it, and you can get some distance on it. Just look out for trees. Because you hit a tree, that thing's gonna go. Dunk.
Trees are bad in
anything
golf.
I think in anything,
especially any form of golf, for sure. But yeah, so that was my kind of experience with it. And then I was walking around, and you could see there was like more quests that hadn't opened. There was more games that hadn't opened. So a game called Shield Soccer, which I'm not entirely sure what that means. There was Dodgeball, which I imagine to be a blast. There was one other game.
Did you find yourself tired at all during like how vigorous was it?
Not too bad.
I mean, Frisbee golf was not.
I was only doing Frisbee golf and paintball, so
paintball,
really.
You're not moving; it's teleportation. So
yeah, so I mean, the whole thing was teleportation, but it's like
but like Frisbee golf,
there wasn't anything that made me sweat.
Winded.
No, It wasn't. Yeah, it wasn't like a workout.
So
it was just
I shouldn't add it
time.
to my workout games list that I'm gonna make.
I mean, you could add it there just
We'll
because
find out when
you're
the full
like
release.
stretching limbs and stuff, but it definitely wasn't like sweat territory. I played it for like a solid 45 to an hour initially, and cut some of that up for the gameplay. But it was good. It was a really good experience for a beta, especially, and they're brave to put that out there.
It's already released. I don't know if it's early access or already released on PC.
It's already released on other VR devices, but for just to kind of be like we're so confident
that's also
in this
testing
port
it to make sure there's no bug issues.
right? And there was a
bugs.
couple. Like
There's gotta be.
We had one frisbee thingy that like when you threw the thing at it just wouldn't like take it, so I was just like slamming it on there and just wasn't doing anything.
And that's when Manu got back up to you.
And then suddenly my frisbee was like it was like Jesus, it was just walking on water and it got a little weird there for a minute, but mostly it was bug free and really 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 enjoyable. I think with a group of like your actual friends playing it, it'd be a great time. So that's Rec Room VR, not out yet, on its way. The beta is accessible, and they just opened up the beta to cross-platform as well. So that's more players. So I might even jump back in and see if much has changed since they did that. They did say they put out this kind of hilarious email that was like, basically, we don't know what's going to happen. Everything could be awful or everything could be great, and we don't know. So
it's being honest.
Just and they were just like straight up about it. Like, this could go to shit really fast, or it could be great. We don't know. And then I haven't actually gone back and heard any reports about how that did or anything like that. But that's the spotlight. Rec Room VR, really good time, recommend it. So let's try and keep this one short.
I feel like we've already given most of our thoughts on this.
Yeah, we have, but I just feel like I didn't honestly. I was like struggling for questions this week. I was like, okay, so they had the PGW announcements. Clearly, Sony still backing VR heavily. It showed up.
Is that the part you've reworded?
Little bit. So because I knew you'd argue with me, so I'm like trying to like reword it a little bit.
How can I make him not argue?
Yeah, that's I am also a sinister Slytherin. So basically,
it's conniving.
The commitment is whatever. The commitment is there, right? Like from Sony anyway, not necessarily from CCP, but from Sony, the commitment is there.
They're showing it up on stage.
They're showing on stage. They're showing it majorly in the pre-show. They still have the PSX experience to go. And obviously, we didn't really know what to expect from Paris Games Week for VR. We kind of all thought there might be something cool. I don't think any of us were expecting them to show as much VR as they did, I'll be honest. I was expecting them to kind of maybe do updates to stuff that was already there.
Oh no, I expected the pre-show to be heavy VR.
I didn't expect to see any new
way
IPs.
they handle it.
I did not like Blood and Truth.
Blood and Truth I didn't expect,
no,
but I
not even close.
expected the showcase to be kind of like E3 was. We're like, here's the 7 big ones we need to know about, and then the pre-show was, here's some cool things that if you already own VR, you're gonna like.
Yeah,
that's how I look at this.
But I just loved how like VR was just in like every single segment they did. They would show like some hype about it. Like the three big themes, it seemed to me, were obviously PS4 and PS4 Pro, VR, and PlayLink. Seemed to be like the things they were going after to show off anyway. The new trailer for Detroit, though, oh my god, it's so good. Anyway,
that's not VR.
It's true. Sidetrack. I just love Quantic Dream. So
Sidetrack. Every AAA game Sony makes should have VR component to it, and that would sell the headset.
That would be cool.
That's all I'm gonna say.
So here's the question, because we're going long this week, and sorry, but it's fucking Paris Games Week, man. Lots of stuff happened, and so we're gonna do that. So the question is, they didn't talk Move 2.0s. They didn't talk Fallout 4 VR, which are two things that, when they had said this is like E3 Part 2, that's when my brain was like, holy shit, are they going to do this? Like, are they really going to fucking...
I didn't think they were.
Yeah. Well, it's a shame they didn't, but they did bring some really good stuff to the table. We have one more event to go. I posted about this in the r/PSVR, and I got kind of like a mixture of people that were supporting me and telling me I was full of shit.
Which one do you think I am?
Which is what I kind of expect. But my thought process is this. We still have the PlayStation experience. The PlayStation experience is the most fan-focused of all the PlayStation keynotes throughout the year. You have, E3 is the big showcase. Apparently Paris is a big deal now. They never used to give a shit about this.
Well, they did. Wasn't that where, not Last of Us 2, there's something else. Uncharted, I think the DLC was announced there, or the new one was announced there last year.
But like Gamescom usually is like on a higher list.
But they didn't have a conference last year. They just kind of announced it.
So big news came out of Paris. PlayStation experience like they love that. They love that because it is pure Sony. And like they love it so much that the last PlayStation experience was where they announced Last of Us 2, which, let's be honest, seems like something that you would expect to see more at E3 than anywhere else. I mean, that trailer would have killed at E3.
But it's also a big IP that doesn't need the E3 because they got all.
But it's just one of those, like, it's one of those, like, if you were, it's like an instant win for E3. Like, you throw Last of Us trailer at the end of E3, you won E3. But they didn't. E3. They kept it for the PlayStation experience. They kept it there. So having done this gigantic launch at E3, this gigantic launch at Paris, they have a PlayStation experience left. What's the cherry on the cake for VR? Like, what things could they do now? Like, I mean, everything is set up really well through till next year. Everything, we have like a timeline that we got the other week where they said, here's everything that's coming out. We got to see some more stuff. We got some new IP from London Studio. Like, what else can they do at PlayStation Experience to round up, let's say, like the perfect first...
What can they do, or what will they do?
What can they do?
Okay.
Not what
we're doing hypotheticals.
Because I know that you're fucking negative. So what can they do to make
this
that?
As I say, I don't think they will do much. I think they'll talk about how successful VR is. I think they'll talk about number of games they have on it, which 286 we looked up today. That is including to be announced release dates and all that kind of stuff. That's everything up until like 3 days ago that was announced. I mean, what they could do is, obviously, the big one is Move 2.0. Fallout 4 would be a big bomb drop. I still think if they really want to blow VR out of the water and they want people to get hyped about it, they're going to take Uncharted. They're going to take a God of War. They're going to take something and big
Some
IP,
first-party
Sony
IP.
first-party IP, and say, oh, by the way, even if it's not a standalone. Like I just said before, jokingly, is like, if every Sony first-party game came with a VR thing, how many more people would buy VR because they already own the game? And you get...
Depends on how good the thing is.
Well,
I
yeah,
guess.
but eventually if you add it, like, how many... Because a lot of people I know, when they buy PlayStation exclusives, they buy all of them because they're all very similar. And if they're like, oh, I already have 5 games that support VR, I'm not then have to spend another $60 to $120 to $200 to get games, however many games you buy for VR, to be able to get this in. So, I would want them to do that. I want them to say, hey, 2018, every single third-party or first-party AAA game will have a VR component. What that means, I don't know. I'm thinking it more of kind of like Tomb Raider did, where it's like added on, or Star Trek or Star Wars.
Like a separate experience.
Yeah, it's a thing. It's a separate menu you can go into. If you have VR, you can go to this section and you can play this thing. And I would love for them to do that because that is, again... For me, that's
the ultimate commitment.
To me,
right?
that's them showing support for this, and they're standing behind it. They're like, this is our thing. We are going to prove to you that it's important to us, and we're not going to rely on other people to show you it's important.
Almost impossible to actually happen.
I don't think so.
Well, I mean, here's the thing. Like, they already have certain teams, like Supermassive and stuff, that are like Sony's boys for VR. But I think that for a lot of their first-party development teams, like Naughty Dog and people like that, like, they don't know how to fucking do VR. So they'd have to definitely start integrating either teaching these people how to do VR right by having them spend time with like London Studios and stuff.
Which, if they're going to support it, that's what they should do.
Yeah. Well, remember, London Studios did do a VR seminar recently. We talked about it. But yeah, I mean, that would be really cool. I think I'm with you on a lot of that. I think that Move 2.0 is, that's it for me. Like, if they can do that before the end of the year, I think I'll be 100% sold on the commitment, and I'll just be like, this is awesome.
So the reason I don't think it's happening this year, and the reason I'm going to shit on you, literally and figuratively,
preferably just figuratively,
is because it would have been perfect for Skyrim. The fact that it's not out before Skyrim makes me think it's not this year. Because that would have been a perfect, like, kind of like they did with Farpoint. You can Farpoint and you get the aim controller. Because I think if Farpoint released without the aim controller, 2 things would happen. Aim wouldn't have sold as much, I don't think. Because that bundle or having them together give you a reason to buy the aim. And I also think that more games wouldn't have supported it. Because if it came out on its own, it would have been like, because again, it comes down to how many people own that unit versus how many people are going to support it and how much it costs to put it in.
Here's my challenge. The aim controller, once announced, because remember, it was under wraps for a long time, once announced, had VR development studios scrambling to figure out a way to implement it. Games like Arizona Sunshine never knew the aim existed because they were already fully released experiences on other VR platforms. So they took a look at it and they're like, okay, what can we do with this? And it didn't take them very long to figure out how to implement it.
But I think it was Farpoint that showed them that it would
true.
work.
But I'm sure there's going to be an experience
Oh,
potentially with the Move 2.0s. It's like, okay, that's how you do it.
But that's what I'm saying. I don't think it's this year because they're not going to announce it at PSX and release it this year unless there's a game.
You still think it's coming then? You just don't think before the end of the year.
I will say if it is coming, it will not be this year.
Okay.
I'm more and more the thing being in the store made me
the navigation.
Yeah, that gets me more and more intrigued unless they're doing something weird with new Move that I don't know about that's not thumbsticks or whatever it may be, whatever it is. But PSX is December 9th and 10th.
Mm-hmm.
That's 2 weeks before Holiday Rush. At that point, most people have finished shopping or your last minute shopping. I think that's a horrible time, again, business time to release it.
They don't have to say, I mean, it could be a case that they are actually waiting to say and they're available today. Can you imagine that?
I don't think they would do
Move
that.
2.0 is available.
I don't think they do because they would not have any in stock, and then it would be people pissed because they couldn't get in for Christmas, and then they'd have that whole fiasco again.
But it creates that hype, though, doesn't it? You know, because there's still a lot of people, I'm sure, that are looking to get a PSVR headset for Christmas. So for them, like it's going to be like the Farpoint aim controller. It's going to be a couple months until they get it, but that drives demand, and that drives like that we talk about how like Nintendo and Apple create this kind of sense of false demand by just having limited supply. So it's a case of like, we're sold out everywhere, sorry, you'll have to wait for like 2 months to get whatever it is that you're after. It's that sense of, man, it's that popular, oh my god, I have to get one. It almost makes you want it more because you can't have it.
Or it's the opposite, or it could be the opposite effect. At some point, if you wait long enough, if you do it too long, people are not going to care anymore.
But they still now can get the headset, so they can get the same experience that everyone's been having for the past year. They just can't get the enhanced experience for maybe a month or two more. So I think it's like...
But then why...
Or maybe they just really did have the right amount of them.
But then I would be pissed if they did that, because then, if they didn't, because then you're probably going to have the moves or whatever with the originals. Like, why am I spending... I don't know how much moves are anymore. $40, I think, for them a piece, whatever it is.
The price gouge on Amazon.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. If why would I buy the moves and then have to go 2 months later go buy the better thing?
Yeah.
Because there are games that require moves that you can get. That's where I have the issue with that, and that's why I don't think they'll drop it this year, and I don't think they'll do it today. I think if anything, it'll probably be a spring release earliest, because there's not much that's going on in the VR world in spring. There's going to be AAA games like Spider-Man's coming out. Well, Spider-Man's probably late next year, but there's going to be
there's a couple spring 2018.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Red Dead is the big one.
Red Dead always does spring and summer.
So that's why I don't think it's going to be, because it would not be smart for them from a PR perspective, from a goodwill perspective. And that's one thing I've told you that I think Microsoft does well, is like this whole gifting from the last podcast, the whole gifting games and regifting for not have to worry about expiration is really cool. I wish Sony had something like that. And I hope Sony does not do it's available today if it's that close to holiday where people are already trying to buy.
Well, but if they just announced it instead of be out next year.
Yeah, that I could see, but it would not be released in 2017.
Gotcha.
There will be no moves, whatever they call them, 2.0 in 2017.
And I'm Fallout, after all those rumors and magazines and everything that showed up.
It all probably depends on the exclusivity that HTC has. That's what it comes down to.
Still waiting on that one.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, we'll never know what their agreement is, but there's clearly something there.
Yeah.
So
I mean, all that backpedaling and everything was really interesting when that was happening. So, I mean, I'm going to just wrap it up there. I mean, what do you think would be the cherry on the cake for PlayStation to do during the PlayStation experience in order to make to really kind of make PSVR stand out as the have-to-have system, the next level experience of gaming, and just kind of neatly tie up this first year of PSVR in a bow? What do you think is going to be there? Like, I am an optimist, clearly, and I think that we're going to see at least a glimpse of the Move. I am a fanboy too. At least a glimpse of the Move controllers and the second generation. Well, I guess third, because they're redoing it already. But I'm hopeful for that. I'm hopeful for Fallout. I do think there's still at least 1 or 2 big VR surprises left, and it wouldn't surprise me if honestly it was just a new IP or something, but just something that's kind of blow your socks off good. Because remember, a lot of these early developers that have been working on the original PSVR titles are now at a level where they can make sequels like Windlands and things like that. So Windlands actually surprisingly absent. Windlands 2 surprisingly absent from the Sony showcase.
Doesn't surprise me because it's early in development.
That's true, but also it's like multi-platform. But yeah, so it's what do you think you'd like to see? That being said, thank you so much for joining us for the last 2 hours. We went long today. Sorry. It has been a hell of a week for VR, and it's going to hopefully continue to get way better. We love the community so much. We love all the support we've been getting lately, all the engagement, all the comments. Please keep it up. Keep us engaged. Keep us up to date on what you want us to know and talk about and what we should experience.
Are you Team Tom or Team Keegan when it comes to a lot of this stuff?
Yeah.
I really honestly want to know how excited people are for PSVR right now. Like, I would love, because I have what I see and what I read, and you have what you see and what you read, and we have our personal opinions on, but I want to know what you guys think of VR in general. Are you still excited like you were when it was first announced?
Are you worried about it?
Yeah, where do you stand in the world of VR? Do you think this is like, if Skyrim fails, it's it? Do you think if Skyrim takes off, it's amazing? If Skyrim doesn't matter? Like, I would love to know all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So this has been your weekly dip into the world of the virtual in Codename Morpheus episode 15. We encourage you to come back and see us next Thursday for Codename Morpheus 16.
We can drive.
Yeah, where we can drive.
Well, technically we can drive now. We get a permit.
But thank you so much. We love you guys. It really does mean the world to us when you comment us and say nice things and say we're pretty and call us nice.
I'm not pretty and not nice. I don't care what they call me at this point. Like, I think you've determined that. Like, I'm cool playing villain.
No fucks given.
Yeah, I'm clear playing villain here.
Anyway.
But I do love you guys. I mean, all honesty, the last, I'd say, 2 weeks have been good. We have things come in waves on the internet. In the last couple weeks have been really good. Yeah,
about a good couple weeks. So. We do also encourage you, if you are VR fans, of course, to dig into our VR trailer playlist that has all the trailers from Paris Games Week, and then also we just have a Paris Games Week playlist which just has everything all mixed into a big bag for you in case you missed any of it. We love you guys so much. Thanks a lot for watching, and as always.
Ow, my back crack. Welcome to the second level. Bye.
Bye.
Oh. No game, but they saying welcome to the second level.